Hello everyone and welcome to this proactive tutoring lesson. Today we're going to go over perimeter, something that you need to know on the SAT and ACT. So let's get to it. Alright, so what exactly is perimeter? So perimeter is defined as the continuous line forming the closed boundary of a geometric figure. For example, if I had this shape, right, this five-sided shape, the perimeter, right, is the black boundary, right? This black boundary represents the perimeter. And in context, for the SAT and ACT, the perimeter usually refers to the length of this black boundary, right? So the length of this black boundary is equal to our perimeter, right? So perimeter is equal to length of the boundary, right? And this is for a two-dimensional shape, right? So for example, for this shape, if we had side lengths of 3, 2, 4, 4, 5, right, the perimeter would just be equal to the sum of the lengths of all of these sides. So 5 plus 4 plus 4 plus 2 plus 3, right, which is just 13 plus 5 is 18. Right, so this is just the perimeter of a shape, right? It's just the sum of the lengths of all of its sides. Now, some perimeter formula that you need to know. So for a rectangle, if you look at a rectangle, the perimeter is going to be equal to 2 times the length plus 2 times the width. Right, and we can also rewrite this as 2 times the quantity L plus W. Right, this is the perimeter for the length, or this is the formula for the perimeter of a rectangle. Right, and this makes sense. Let's say we have a rectangle, right? We want to find the perimeter, right? The perimeter is just the sum of all the lengths of the sides, right? So we know that this side will equal this side and this side will equal this side. So we're adding 2 of the widths plus 2 of the lengths, right? So that's where this formula comes from. Now, if we want to look at a square, right? For a square, the perimeter is just 4 times the side length, right? And for a square, right, for a square, all sides are the same. So if we had a side length of S, right here, let's say we have a length of W and a width of W, or length of L and width of W. So for a square with side length S, the perimeter, we just add S 4 times, right? So we'll get us 4 times S, which is where this formula comes from. So this formula and this formula is important to know for the SAT. Just know this, instead of drawing out a rectangle each time trying to add the side lengths, just knowing this formula will save you some time. Okay, now let's go over a circle, right? So for a circle, the perimeter is, we can't really find the perimeter, right? Let's say we have a circle here. We can't really find the perimeter of this, right? Because there's no actual side lengths. So how would we find the so-called perimeter of a circle? Well, for a circle, the perimeter is equal to the circumference, right? The terminology for the length of the boundary of a circle is called the circle's circumference, right? So this black boundary right here is the circumference of the circle. And the circumference, to C, is equal to 2 pi r, where r is the radius, right? So if we had a circle with a radius 3, right? Let's say the circle's radius was 3. Circumference is 2 pi times 3, which is just 6 pi, right? And the units for perimeter, it's always the unit length, right? So it might be feet or meters or centimeters, etc. All right. So now that we've gone over perimeter, let's look at a few practice problems. So you guys try this question on your own. Okay, so we want to know the perimeter in feet of the figure shown below, right? So what is the perimeter of this figure? Well, we know we have a 20 there, and we have a 20 there, we have a 14 there, we have an 8 here, and we don't know what these two lengths are, right? We don't know what this is, and we don't know what that is. So obviously to find the perimeter of a shape, we need to know the total length of the boundary, right? And we do not for this question. So how do we find the red and how do we find the green? Well, let's think about this like this. Let's look at the red region. Right, we know that this whole vertical length is 20. Right, and since this whole vertical length is 20, then that means obviously this vertical length is also 20. So if this vertical length is 20, we know that this is 14. Right, we know that this is 14. So if this 14, this vertical component here, plus this other vertical component here has to be equal to 20. Right, so we can just say, and we can call this x. Right, we can just say that 14 plus x has to be equal to 20. So x is just 6. So this is equal to 6. Similarly, we can do the same thing to find the length of the green side. Right, we know that this whole horizontal length right here is 20, right, which means this whole length is also 20. Right, and we know that this is 8, right, and the next horizontal component is this green right here, which we can call y, and these are the only two horizontal components, right? So we know that 8 plus y must be equal to 20. So y is equal to 12. So now we know the lengths of all of our sides. So we can just add them up to find the perimeter. The perimeter is just equal to 20 plus 20 plus 14 plus 12 plus 6 plus 8. Right, and this is just equal to 40, 54, 66, 72, 80. Right, so the length of the total boundary of this figure is 80 feet. Our answer is D. All right, now you guys try this question. All right, so in this eight-sided figure below, adjacent sides meet at right angles and lengths are given in meters. So what is the perimeter of the figure? And what is the perimeter of the figure? All right, so let's start off with what we know. We know that this length is 20, this is 12, and this is 8. But the problem is we know only the lengths of 3 of the 8 sides, right? We don't know the lengths of the other 5 sides. And to find the perimeter, we need to know the length of the total boundary, right? So how can we find the length of the total boundary of this figure if we don't have all of our side lengths? Well, we can think about it like this. So similar to the last problem, we can just say, right, that this whole vertical length would just be 12 plus 8, right? So this is just 20. Right, and that means that this whole length is 20 as well. So if this whole length is 20, right, that means this right here plus that right there must be equal to 20. Right, so we can just say that these two regions are 20. right? These two, 20. We don't need to know the actual individual lengths of these sides. We just need to know the total length of our boundary surrounding our figure, right? Because that's what the perimeter is. The perimeter is a figure. We can add up all the sides if we want, but even if we don't know all the side lengths, we can just find the total length of the boundary. So we know that this is 20. Now similarly, we know that this horizontal component is 20, and we know that this right here is 20. So we know that this plus that plus this is equal to 20 as well, right? There, there, and there. Right, so now we essentially have our perimeter. Our perimeter is just our two 20s that we already had. Well, we had a 20 plus a 12 plus an 8, right? And now we have two different 20s, right? We have this red 20, right? We have this red 20, and then we have this green 20, right? We have that green 20. And this accounts for all of the different sides that our boundary has created, right? So this is just essentially, we just add all these up and we get a perimeter of 80 meters, right? So our answer is B, right? So even if you're not directly given the side lengths, just reasoning your way through this and realizing that you don't need to actually know the lengths of the individual sides, but just the total length of the boundary of the figure, and you'll find your answer. All right, now you guys give this one a go. Okay, so we're doing that. Banu will build a fence around a rectangular 30-foot by 25-foot play area. So given that fencing cost $4.05 per foot, how much will he need to, how much will the fencing cost to completely surround the area? All right, so first we need to know how much fencing, right? How much fencing? All right, and if we want, we can just draw a quick sketch of this. All right, so this is going to be his play area. This is going to be 30 feet, and this is going to be 25 feet. Right, and the black represents his fencing, so we want to know how much of total fencing will he need, and then we just multiply that by the cost per foot to get the total cost. All right, so what is the perimeter, right, which is the total amount of fencing which he needs? Well, we can just add up all these side lengths, right, because we know that this is 30, and we know that this is 25. We can just add up all the side lengths, or we can just use our formula of 2L plus 2W, right? Perimeter is equal to 2 times length plus 2 times width, right? And we can use this formula. We don't even need to draw this picture, really. This picture is to show you guys what this looks like, but you don't really even need to draw the picture, right? If you just have the formula, then you can just find the perimeter this way. The 2 times 30 plus 2 times 25, which is 110 feet. Right, so our perimeter is 100 feet. Now, we are also given that fencing costs $4.05 per foot. Right, so for every foot, we pay $4.05. So our total cost was equal to the total amount of feet we will need of fencing, 110, times the cost for each of that, for each feet. Right, so each foot is $4.05. So we get a total cost of $445.50. Right, so this is our total cost to completely surround the play area. So for this question, we just found the perimeter of the play area, which is equivalent to the amount of fencing that Bandit will need. And then given that fencing cost $4.05 per foot, we just multiplied our perimeter by $4.05 to get our total cost of $445.50. All right, let's try a couple more. All right, so you guys try this one. Okay, so we were given that the length of a rectangle with area 54 square centimeters is 9 centimeters. We want to know the perimeter of the rectangle. Right, well, if we have a rectangle, right, let's sketch this out. Right, with an area of 54, so this is 54. Right, and this is 9. Well, if we know that the area is equal to 54, we know the area is equal to length times width, which is just length times width. And we know that 54 is equal to 9 times width, right? So our width is 6, right? So this missing side length is 6. This is 9, and this is 6. Right, so to find the perimeter of the rectangle, we can just add up all the side lengths. 6 plus 9 plus 6 plus 9 gets us a total perimeter of 30 centimeters. So our answer is K. All right, let's try one more for this video. So pause the video and try this one. All right, so we want to know how long in centimeters is one side of a square whose perimeter is equal to the circumference of a circle with a radius of 2 centimeters. All right, so we have a square and we have circumference of a circle, the radius. So this question is throwing a lot of things at us. All right, so let's read this carefully and just go through this carefully. Okay. So is one side of a square whose perimeter, right? So let's say we have a square. We have a square with side length s, right? So the perimeter is just equal to 4s. Or the perimeter of the square is equal to 4s. And we want to know what s is, right? We want to know what s is, and the perimeter is equal to the circumference of a circle with 2 centimeters. Right, so let's let me do this in red. The circumference of a circle with a radius of 2 centimeters. So let's draw the circle. We have a circle right here, a radius of 2 centimeters. So what is the circumference of the circle? Well, circumference is equal to 2 pi r, which is equal to 2 pi times 2, which is just equal to 4 pi. All right, so the length of this red outer region of the circle is 4 pi centimeters. So we want to know how long is one side of a square whose perimeter is equal to, right? Equal to, so the perimeter of the square is equal to the circumference. Right, so the perimeter is equal to circumference. So since circumference is equal to 4 pi, our perimeter must also equal 4 pi. Right, because we are given that the perimeter of the square is equal to the circumference of the circle. So we know that p is equal to 4s, and now that 4 pi is equal to 4s. All right, and dividing both sides by 4, we get that s is equal to pi centimeters. So our answer is choice F. Right, so hopefully that wasn't as bad as it might have initially looked. First, we just found the circumference of the circle, and we knew that this was equal to the perimeter of our square because we were told so. And then just dividing this by 4 to find the length of one side of our square, we got an answer of pi centimeters.